So go ahead, Joe.
Hi everyone. So I'm going to go through the basics of what's involved in making an SPS declaration for plants and plant products and other objects to DAFM. So I'll outline all the steps involved and highlight any common errors that people would encounter that could potentially delay your consignment moving through Dublin Port. So we're going to look at how and when to use traces and the different kinds of shed that you can create on traces. So there will be a shed PP for plant products, and there will be a shed D for pesticide residues. And that could be also for plant products and different kinds of commodities. And in the event of the fact you have to kind of declare for both, it'll be dual controls, and you have to create one of each. And then we'll also outline when and how you use the DAFM imports portal. And so next then, Tom, we will move on to registration. So basically, you cannot proceed any further unless you're registered with traces and registered with the Department of Agriculture. So pursuant to the Official Controls Regulation, all agents responsible for the load and all importers importing plant products, they need to be registered. So if you're not registered with traces and registered with the Department of Agriculture with a plant health registration number, I'd suggest you look into doing this. There's lots of information available on our website, gov.ie/agriculture. And once you've that done, you can move on then to creating your shed. So on the next slide, we see an example of a shed PP. If we go on to the next slide, we will see kind of a close-up of what a shed looks like. So basically, a shed PP, it's a similar document in some ways to maybe a SAD declaration, but we would require more information on commodities and their country of origin and the means of transport, and specific information then about the support information like the Phytosanitary certs. And if you're interested in what kinds of products need a shed PP, you can reference Regulation 2019-2072. There's a full list of all the commodities and the target codes that require a shed PP or an SPS declaration. So we've also had a lot of queries recently about the plant products and other objects. Other objects include machinery, second-hand machinery, and that will be second-hand agricultural, horticultural, and forestry machinery. These are all subject to sanitary and phytosanitary checks, and they need all the declarations that we're going to outline here. So if you move on to the next slide, we have very detailed kind of demo of how to create a shed PP on the DAFM YouTube page. So I'd suggest if you're not familiar with the procedure, you can log on to YouTube and check it out. It goes through every step in detail, and you can rewind it and go through it until you're happy with the procedure. So next then, for pesticide residues, you'll have to create a shed D. So it's required as part of the official controls for you to make a declaration on pesticide residues for certain commodities before they enter Union territory. And for a list of these regulated products, you can reference Regulation 2020-625, and you can find the inspection frequencies here as well. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning, some commodities will be subject to dual controls. So you'll have to create a shed PP and both a shed D. So if you have a shed PP created, there's a handy feature in traces where you can clone that shed PP and create a shed D. So it's literally just one click of a mouse, and then you have two sheds created. But both of these would need to be submitted to DAFM separately through the DAFM portal, and I will go through that in more detail now shortly. So on the next slide then, we will kind of, go into detail for the commodities listed under Annex 1 of the regulation. The documents they require are the same documents that we require for plant health checks. And then in Annex 2 of the regulation, you will need a health certificate, and results of pesticide residue analysis from the country of origin. So physical checks, they're liable to be carried out at the frequency specified in the regulation, and consignments, they will be detained pending lab results in bonded storage area if they are being tested. So next, then we will move on to the DAFM portal. So when you have your shed PP created and you have your MRN number, it's only at this point then that you will go to the DAFM portal. So the portal, it will be your first point of contact with the Department of Agriculture, because we don't keep eyes on sheds that are created. Some agents might create them a week in advance just to be organized. So if you want to declare something to DAFM and create an active case, the person responsible for the load needs to submit it through the portal. And it's at that point then that DAFM will start reviewing your application. So we require you to submit the application 24 hours in advance. This gives us time to kind of review any kind of non-conformities in the application. We can troubleshoot any problems and solve them before the consignment arrives on our shores. Because if you have a consignment that arrives in Dublin Port, your application is incomplete or non-conforming, it's going to be detained and delayed. So it's in your interest. Might be difficult logistically with timelines that some operators operate under, but if you can get them in 24 hours in advance, it can help avoid any delays in Dublin Port. And also it will help generate a customs routing. For plant products, it's possible for us to pre-clear a consignment if we deem it not to be high risk and all your supporting documentation checks out. We can potentially issue an exit port routing, but this can't be done if documents are submitted late. So it's in your interest to kind of get them in good and early. So if we go on to the next slide, we can see the key data kind of that we need. So your cert numbers for identification of the consignments. So firstly, you will need in the portal, you will need your MRN that will be given to you from revenue. You will need a complete shed number. It can't be a draft number. It needs to be a fully submitted shed number. You will need your plant health registration number, or PHR number for short. So that's why it's important to be registered with DAFM. You won't be able to proceed unless you have your PHR number. And then finally, we would like a description of the consignment, whether it's low, row, accompanied or unaccompanied. And in our next slide then, we go through our mandatory documents. They're slightly different to the ones Noreen outlined for animal products. So we would require a bill of lading. It's not mandatory for RoRo, but so we would need a SAD document or your import declaration to revenue. We would need a commercial invoice and a Phytosanitary Certificate. And that's it. Once you have them uploaded to the portal and attached, that's your application with DAFM complete. So then next week we will go through some common errors that we would see. Here's an example of a Phytosanitary Certificate. So the Phytosanitary Certificate must be addressed to the NPPO of the country of destination. So you can see here it's circled, it's addressed to the Irish Republic. And we have had numerous kind of Phytosanitary certs, they weren't addressed to the Republic of Ireland, and that makes the document invalid. So basically the person responsible for the load is going to have to go back to DEFRA and request an amended phyto, and that's going to cause delays to your consignment. So we would kind of it's imperative that if you get issued a Phytosanitary cert, that you review it before you submit it to DAFM, because inaccurate submissions, they will do just delay your consignment. So make sure the data that you get, it's of good quality. Also referenced in this here, you can see attached documents mentioned on the cover page of the Phytosanitary cert. So make sure that you have all the attached documents, because if you don't have them uploaded, the cert is incomplete and we won't be able to sign off on the consignment. We'll get delayed. So if you go on to the next page, we will see the full Phytosanitary cert. It's 3 pages. So on the cover page of the phyto, there was listed a reference an attached file with countries of origin and commodity descriptions. Then also there was additional declarations referenced as well as an attached file. And so if either of those two attachments are missing from a phyto, basically your application is insufficient, and you're going to have to request more information. It could potentially delay your consignment. But it's important to be familiar with phytocerts and know what's involved with them. Phytocerts, everything could fit on the cover page of a phyto, but it's just important to know that if there are extra annexes with the cert, just to be aware of them and make sure they're included in your submission through the portal. And next, then, we would just some other common mistakes that we would see with applications would be everything would check out in that all the commodities declared on the Phytosanitary Cert would match the commodities declared on your invoice, but then there will be extra products declared on the customs declaration. So in that instance, we have commodities declared on a consignment that aren't covered under the Phytosanitary Cert. So hence, you're going to have a problem there. You'll have to request a phyto, go back to DEFRA. Other examples of problems with phytosanitary certs with consignments that have been delayed, where we would need a phyto for the country of origin in an instance where a consignment is being transshipped. So if it's being transshipped, we'll need the original phyto, and then we will need a re-export phyto from the United Kingdom. And that would fulfill all the phytosanitary requirements there. And basically, just to keep your consignments moving through the port, we would say just get your application in complete, accurate, and early. That's the best advice we can give. And finally, on our last slide here, there is very detailed information on our website on everything that I've covered here. So if you need any extra information, gov.ie/agriculture Brexit. All right, thank you very much.